did anyone say he's a bad kid or that he wasn't going to get along with veterans and come? I mean, this is a guy who has been training to be a professional football player since the day he was born. And
that's Shedeur Sanders is out here cooking right now.
You know, he's doing what he do to acclimate the fan city, and that's the best way to get the people to him.
Shedeur Sanders, he's looking like he's preparing locker.
Because what you're trying to do is cement what you believe you already know about his character, not just his play. And I think that it's good for a young person in his position to be put through those tests.
The only thing that I care about is how you play in preseason games, because it's the biggest thing that we take into effect when we are developing and underlying the theme of quarterbacks.
Yesterday, Shedeur Sanders got caught speeding over 100 miles an hour. He's a quarterback. Mike Tomlin often says 2 is a trend.
You got a first-round quarterback in the 5th round.
His mindset. I think he understands where he needs to go.
Shedeur understands the playbook. He knows how to get in and out of certain checks. We can toss him in there with Jerry Jeudy and the ones to see what he can do, because he showed us in OTAs that he can do this.
I've heard he's been outstanding in the building. And I don't know, there was never no one thought he was this like malcontent or like a bag. It wasn't.
That was the word,
that was kind of what was being said.
He's flipping the switch a little bit because, you know, all the back and forth is over. Now it's show and prove time.
Did anyone say he's a bad kid or that he wasn't going to get along with veterans? I mean, this is a guy who has been training to be a professional football player since the day he was born. And Shedeur Sanders is out here cooking right now, doing what he does to acclimate the fans. And that's the best way to get people behind him. But what happened next at Browns camp wasn't just impressive. It was the kind of moment that makes NFL coaches stop mid-conversation and question everything they thought they knew about rookie quarterbacks. Picture this: a 5th-round pick, barely 3 months into his professional career, drops back in the pocket with 2 All-Pro defenders bearing down on him. The window? 6 inches. The pressure? Crushing. Most rookies would panic, check down, or take the sack. Not Shedeur Sanders. What he did next left every coach, every veteran, every scout in that facility absolutely speechless. And I'm not talking about a lucky throw or a flash-in-the-pan moment. I'm talking about the kind of precision that separates quarterbacks who play the game from the ones who completely redefine it. This wasn't just a throw, this was a statement. A declaration that everything we thought we knew about this rookie was wrong. Stay with me, because what I'm about to show you isn't just changing how Cleveland views their future. It's making the entire NFL reconsider what's possible from a 5th-round selection. By the end of this video, you'll understand why coaches are whispering that they might have just witnessed the birth of the next great NFL quarterback. Let me paint you the exact picture of what happened on that field, because this wasn't your typical training camp highlight. It was 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon. The sun was beating down mercilessly on the Cleveland practice facility. Shedeur Sanders had been running drills for over 2 hours straight, sweat dripping, jersey soaked, but his focus laser sharp. The play call came in, gun trips right, Y option smash. For those who don't speak football, that's a high-difficulty concept that requires reading 3 different defensive levels simultaneously while delivering the ball with surgical precision. Most veteran quarterbacks need months to master this route combination. Shedeur had been working on it for exactly 4 days. As he approached the line of scrimmage, you could see the defense loading up. 2 All-Pro caliber defenders, guys who've been making quarterbacks look foolish for years, were positioned perfectly to jump any route. The safety was creeping down, eyes locked on Sanders, practically daring him to throw into coverage. The snap was clean. Sanders dropped back, his footwork textbook perfect despite the chaos erupting around him. The pocket began collapsing immediately, defensive ends crashing in from both sides, linebackers blitzing up the middle. Any normal rookie would have felt that pressure and either scrambled or thrown the ball away. But here's where it gets incredible. As the pocket collapsed, Sanders stepped up, Not back, not sideways, up into the pocket with the kind of courage that can't be taught. His eyes never left his target, even as 250-pound defenders closed in. The window he was throwing into? 6 inches. Literally 6 inches between two defenders who were converging at full speed. The ball left his hand with a tight spiral that seemed to defy physics. Perfect velocity, perfect placement, perfect timing. It threaded between those defenders like a laser beam, hitting his receiver in stride for a 34-yard touchdown. But here's what made it truly special: the silence that followed. Nobody celebrated immediately. Nobody moved. For about 3 seconds, that entire practice field stood completely still. Coaches stopped talking. Players stopped moving. Even the equipment managers paused what they were doing. It was one of those moments where everyone present knew they had just witnessed something extraordinary. Then the explosion came. Teammates erupted. Coaches started pointing and gesturing animatedly. One defensive coordinator was overheard saying, "That's not supposed to be possible from a rookie." Another coach simply shook his head and muttered, "We might have something special here." But what happened next was even more telling. Instead of celebrating or showboating, Sanders simply jogged back to the huddle, called the next play, and got ready to do it again. That composure, that professionalism, that hunger for more, that's what separates good quarterbacks from great ones. This wasn't luck. This wasn't a fluke. This was a quarterback announcing his arrival in the most dramatic way possible. While most NFL players spent their July 4th weekend living it up in Miami or Vegas, Shedeur Sanders was somewhere completely different, and what he was doing there will blow your mind. It was 11:47 p.m. on July 4th in Gainesville, Florida. Most of the city was either asleep or recovering from holiday celebrations. But Sanders? He was standing alone on a high school football field in the middle of a thunderstorm that would have sent most people running for cover. The weather app on his phone showed severe thunderstorm warnings. Lightning was crackling across the sky every few seconds. The wind was gusting at 35 miles per hour, and rain was coming down so hard that visibility was maybe 20 yards. Any sane person would have called it a night and headed home. But Shedeur Sanders isn't most people. There he was, under the dim stadium lights of a small Florida high school, running full quarterback drills by himself. No coaches. No teammates. No cameras. Just him, a bag of footballs, and an obsession with perfection that borders on the supernatural. He had set up cones as targets at various distances and was methodically working through his throwing progressions, adjusting for the wind, the rain, and the slippery conditions. But here's where it gets absolutely insane. He wasn't just throwing with his right hand. Every few throws, he would switch the ball to his left hand and continue the drill with the same precision and intensity. Lightning would flash, illuminating his silhouette as he dropped back and fired perfect spirals through the storm. The rain was so heavy that the footballs were waterlogged, making them heavier and harder to grip. The wind was swirling unpredictably, making accurate throws nearly impossible. Sanders didn't care. He kept throwing. A local resident who lived near the field later told reporters that he watched from his window for over an hour, mesmerized by what he was seeing. "I've never seen anything like it," he said. This kid was out there in conditions that would shut down most high school games, and he was throwing perfect spirals like it was a sunny day in California. What makes this story even more incredible is why he was doing it. Sanders later explained that he wanted to simulate the worst possible conditions he might face in the NFL. "If I can throw accurately in a thunderstorm at midnight," he said, "then throwing in a dome with perfect conditions should feel easy." That mindset, that willingness to seek out difficulty rather than avoid it, is what separates elite athletes from everyone else. Most players train in perfect conditions with private coaches and state-of-the-art facilities. Sanders was out there training in chaos, by himself, because he understood something that many rookies don't. The NFL is going to test you in ways you can't imagine, and the only way to be ready is to test yourself first. When NFL coaches heard this story, their reactions were unanimous. This kid is different. This is the kind of dedication that can't be taught, can't be faked, and can't be ignored. Let's talk numbers, because what Shedeur Sanders is doing statistically isn't just impressive for a rookie, it's historically unprecedented for any quarterback at any level. And I'm not talking about cherry-picked stats or small sample sizes. I'm talking about consistent, dominant performance that's making NFL analysts completely recalibrate their expectations. In training camp, Sanders is completing 77.4% of his passes. Let me put that in perspective for you. The NFL record for single-season completion percentage is 70.55%, set by Drew Brees in 2018, one of the most accurate quarterbacks in NFL history, in his 18th professional season. Sanders, a rookie who was drafted in the 5th round, is currently 7 percentage points higher than that record. In practice, yes, but against NFL-caliber defenders who are trying their absolute best to make him look bad. But it gets even more ridiculous. He's thrown 9 touchdowns against just 1 interception. That's a 9-to-1 touchdown-to-interception ratio. For context, Aaron Rodgers' career ratio is 4.4-to-1, and he's considered one of the most careful quarterbacks in NFL history. Tom Brady's career ratio is 3-to-1. Patrick Mahomes, the current golden boy of the NFL, has a career ratio of 3.4-to-1. Sanders is doubling the performance of Hall of Fame quarterbacks. Now, let's compare him to his own quarterback room, because this is where it gets absolutely embarrassing for everyone else. While Sanders is completing 77.4% of his passes, Dylan Gabriel, who was supposed to be the developmental prospect with upside, is sitting at 57.8%. That's nearly a 20 percentage point difference. Kenny Pickett, the former first-round pick who was brought in to compete for the starting job, is at 60.3%. Even Joe Flacco, the Super Bowl champion and 16-year veteran, is struggling at 51.4%. Think about that for a second. A 5th-round rookie is outperforming a Super Bowl winning quarterback by 26 percentage points. He's making a former first-round pick look like he's never played the position before. This isn't just better performance, this is a completely different level of quarterbacking. But here's what makes these numbers even more impressive. Sanders isn't just completing easy throws. Film study shows that his average throw travels 12.3 yards downfield, compared to 8.7 yards for the other quarterbacks in camp. He's completing more passes, throwing them farther downfield, and doing it with better accuracy than veterans who have been playing this game for over a decade. NFL scouts who have been evaluating quarterbacks for 20-plus years are calling these numbers unprecedented and historically anomalous. One longtime evaluator told reporters, "I've never seen a rookie quarterback dominate a veteran quarterback room like this." Usually, rookies are just trying to keep up and learn the system. Sanders looks like he's teaching the system to everyone else. The most telling statistic might be this: in situational drills, 3rd down, red zone, 2-minute offense, Sanders is completing 84% of his passes. These are the highest pressure situations where most rookies struggle the most. Sanders is thriving in them. Now let's talk about something that's never been seen before in NFL history, and I mean literally never. What Shedeur Sanders is doing with his ambidextrous ability isn't just a cool party trick or a gimmick for highlight reels. It's a legitimate weapon that's causing defensive coordinators to lose sleep and completely rethink how they prepare for quarterbacks. Picture this scenario. Sanders takes the snap and rolls to his right. The defense, trained by years of film study and instinct, flows with him. The linebacker drops to cover the underneath route, the safety rotates over the top, and the cornerback sits on the comeback. It's textbook defensive coverage, executed perfectly by NFL-caliber players who have been making these reads for years. But then Sanders does something that breaks their brains. Mid-stride, while rolling right at full speed, He switches the ball from his right hand to his left hand and fires a dart back across his body to the opposite side of the field. Not a wobbly duck or a desperate heave, a perfect spiral with NFL velocity and pinpoint accuracy that hits his receiver in stride for a 28-yard gain. The defensive players literally stopped and looked at each other like, what just happened? Mike Zimmer, a defensive coordinator who has been in the NFL for over 30 years and has seen every trick in the book, said defending Sanders feels like preparing for two completely different quarterbacks. Everything we teach about quarterback tendencies goes out the window, Zimmer explained. Normally, you can predict throwing lanes based on arm angle and release point. With Sanders, he can attack any part of the field from any position with either hand. But here's what makes this truly special. His left-handed throws aren't just accurate, they have the same velocity and spin rate as his right-handed throws. Sports science experts who have analyzed his mechanics say this is virtually impossible. The human brain isn't wired to develop equal dexterity in both hands, especially for complex motor skills like quarterback throwing mechanics. Yet Sanders is doing it at an elite level. His left-handed throws clock in at 58 miles per hour, the same velocity as his right-handed throws. The spiral rotation is identical. The accuracy is identical. It's like watching a glitch in the Matrix. One defensive back, who asked to remain anonymous, said, "It's honestly unfair. We spend hours studying film, learning his tendencies, figuring out his favorite routes, and throwing angles. Then he just switches hands, and all that preparation becomes useless. It's like he's cheating, but it's completely legal." The psychological impact on defenses is already becoming apparent. In one-on-one drills, defensive backs are hesitating for split seconds, unsure which direction Sanders might throw. That hesitation, even just a tenth of a second, is the difference between a pass breakup and a completion in the NFL. Coaches around the league are calling this the biggest innovation in quarterback play since the read option offense. Some are saying it might be the most significant development in football since the forward pass itself. That might sound like hyperbole, but when you watch Sanders seamlessly switch hands mid-play and deliver strikes with both arms, you start to understand why people are making such bold comparisons. What separates truly great quarterbacks from the merely talented ones isn't just arm strength or accuracy, it's what happens between the ears and how they carry themselves when nobody's watching. And this is where Shedeur Sanders is showing a maturity and character that's honestly shocking for a 22-year-old rookie. Let's start with his approach to the playbook, because this is where most rookies struggle the most. The average NFL playbook contains over 300 different plays, each with multiple variations based on defensive alignment, down and distance, and field position. Most rookies spend their entire first season just trying to memorize the basics. Sanders? He's not just memorizing, he's innovating. Offensive coordinator Alex Van Pelt recently told reporters that Sanders has been suggesting modifications to existing plays based on what he's seeing from defenses in practice. Think about that for a second. A fifth-round rookie is teaching concepts to coaches who have been running NFL offenses for decades. Van Pelt said, "Usually, we're trying to slow rookies down and simplify things for them. With Shedeur, we're actually adding complexity because he's processing information faster than we expected. But what's even more impressive is how he's handling the mental pressure of being a rookie quarterback in Cleveland, a city that has been starving for quarterback stability for over 2 decades. The weight of expectation would crush most young players. Sanders seems to thrive under it. His teammates have noticed. Veteran wide receiver Jerry Jeudy, who has played with multiple quarterbacks throughout his career, said, "Shedeur walks into the huddle like he's been doing this for 10 years. There's no hesitation, no uncertainty. He calls the play, makes his checks, and everyone just follows his lead. That's not normal for a rookie." But here's where Sanders really shows his character, what he does away from the facility. While other rookies are hitting the nightclub scene or spending their signing bonuses on luxury cars, Sanders is spending his free time at local youth centers, working with kids from underserved communities. Not for photo ops or social media content, he specifically requests that these visits not be publicized. One youth center director in Cleveland said, "Shedeur shows up every Tuesday after practice. No cameras, no entourage. He throws footballs with the kids, helps them with their homework, and just talks to them about life. These kids look up to him, and he takes that responsibility seriously." This community engagement isn't just good PR, it's building a connection with the city that goes beyond football. Cleveland fans have been burned by quarterback after quarterback who treated the city like a stepping stone. Sanders is treating it like home. The mental toughness that allows him to train in thunderstorms, the intellectual capacity to master complex offensive systems, and the character to give back to his community, these aren't separate qualities. They're all part of the same foundation that's making NFL coaches believe they might be witnessing the emergence of something truly special. When you combine elite physical talent with this level of mental and emotional maturity, you get the kind of quarterback who doesn't just win games, he transforms franchises. Here's something that doesn't happen in the NFL, ever. Veteran players, guys who have been grinding in this league for years, don't typically defer to rookies. They don't seek out their opinions. They certainly don't publicly praise fifth-round picks who haven't taken a single regular season snap. But that's exactly what's happening in Cleveland right now, and it's creating a buzz that's reaching every corner of the NFL. Myles Garrett, the face of the Cleveland Browns franchise and one of the most respected defensive players in the league, was overheard telling teammates, "That kid processes information differently than anyone I've seen. He's not just learning the offense, he's understanding why each play works against specific defensive looks." Coming from a player who has faced elite quarterbacks twice a year for his entire career, that's not casual praise. That's recognition of something extraordinary. But it goes deeper than just football IQ. Veterans are responding to Sanders' approach to leadership, which is unlike anything typically seen for rookies. Most first-year players try to earn respect by being loud, flashy, or overly aggressive. Sanders is doing the opposite. He's earning respect through preparation, consistency, and an almost supernatural ability to make everyone around him better. David Njoku, the Browns' Pro Bowl tight end, shared a story that perfectly illustrates this point. During a recent practice, Sanders noticed that Njoku was running his routes slightly differently than what the play design called for. Instead of calling him out in front of the team or complaining to coaches, Sanders pulled Njoku aside after practice and said, "I noticed you're breaking your routes about a yard shorter than the play sheet shows. I can adjust my timing, but I want to make sure we're on the same page about what you're seeing from the defense." That level of awareness, noticing subtle route adjustments and then taking personal responsibility to adapt rather than demanding others change, is the kind of leadership that veteran players respect. Njoku later told reporters, most quarterbacks, especially young ones, would just throw the ball where the play says to throw it and blame you if it's incomplete. Shedeur is already thinking like a 10-year veteran. The respect isn't limited to offensive players. Defensive veterans who face Sanders in practice daily are becoming his biggest advocates. Denzel Ward, the Browns' all-pro cornerback, said something that sent shockwaves through the organization. "I've been in this league for 6 years, and I've never seen a rookie quarterback command respect like this. When he's in the huddle, everyone listens. When he makes adjustments at the line, everyone trusts him. That's not normal." Perhaps most telling is what happened during a recent team meeting. Head coach Kevin Stefanski was discussing red zone efficiency when Sanders raised his hand and suggested a modification to their goal line package based on what he'd observed from the defense. Not only did Stefanski listen, he implemented the suggestion immediately, and it resulted in 3 touchdowns in the next practice session. One veteran offensive lineman, speaking anonymously, summed it up perfectly. "Usually, rookies are trying to prove they belong. Shedeur acts like he's been here all along, and somehow, that makes all of us play better." The most telling sign that something extraordinary is happening with Shedeur Sanders isn't just what's happening on the field, it's how the media narrative around him has completely flipped in just a matter of weeks. And I'm talking about hardened NFL reporters who have seen every type of quarterback hype come and go, suddenly changing their tune in ways that are honestly unprecedented. Mary Kay Cabot, who has covered the Cleveland Browns for over 2 decades and has witnessed more quarterback disappointments than anyone should have to endure, was initially skeptical about Sanders. Her early reports were measured, cautious, filled with the kind of hedged language that veteran reporters use when they've been burned too many times before. But her most recent article contained this stunning admission: "I've covered 47 different quarterbacks in Cleveland over my career. I've never seen one adapt to the NFL level this quickly or command respect this immediately." That's not just a change of opinion, that's a complete reversal from one of the most respected and notoriously tough NFL reporters in the business. When Mary Kay Cabot says a Browns quarterback is special, people listen, because she's been right about every quarterback disappointment Cleveland has had for the past 20 years. But it's not just local media. National outlets are starting to take notice in ways that fifth-round picks simply don't experience. ESPN's Adam Schefter, who typically doesn't waste time on rookie storylines unless they're first-round picks, recently dedicated an entire segment to Sanders' camp performance. NFL Network's Ian Rappaport called Sanders' development the most surprising story of training camp across all 32 teams. Here's what makes this media attention different. It's not based on potential or college highlights or draft day storylines. It's based on current, measurable NFL performance against NFL caliber competition. These reporters are watching practice film, talking to coaches and players, and seeing something that's making them reconsider everything they thought they knew about rookie quarterback development. Herm Edwards, the former NFL coach and current ESPN analyst who has never been accused of hyperbole, made a statement that sent shockwaves through the football world. Shedeur Sanders is going to win that starting job in Cleveland, and when he does, he's going to change how we evaluate quarterback prospects forever. Edwards didn't say might win or has a chance to compete. He said is going to win, with the kind of certainty that veteran coaches reserve for absolute sure things. The transformation has been so dramatic that several national media members have publicly admitted they were wrong in their initial assessments. Colin Cowherd, who initially questioned Sanders' NFL readiness, recently said, "I may have completely misjudged this situation. What I'm hearing from Cleveland is that this kid isn't just meeting expectations, he's shattering them daily." Perhaps most significantly, Sanders is starting to appear on the same media platforms typically reserved for established stars. He's being invited to primetime interviews, featured in major magazine profiles, and discussed on national radio shows with the kind of reverence usually reserved for proven NFL quarterbacks. When the media narrative shifts this dramatically, this quickly, it's usually a sign that something genuinely historic is happening. What separates Shedeur Sanders from every other rookie quarterback isn't just his physical abilities or even his football IQ. It's his understanding that success in the NFL is about playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. And the moves he's making, both on and off the field, reveal a level of strategic thinking that's honestly frightening for a 22-year-old. Let's start with how he's handling the quarterback competition, because this is where most rookies make critical mistakes. The typical approach for a fifth-round pick would be to come in guns blazing, trying to make spectacular plays to grab attention and force their way into the conversation. Sanders is doing the exact opposite, and it's genius. Instead of trying to wow coaches with risky throws or flashy plays, he's systematically demonstrating mastery of every fundamental aspect of quarterbacking. His pre-snap reads are flawless. His footwork is textbook. His decision-making is conservative but efficient. He's not trying to prove he can make every throw, he's proving he'll never make the wrong throw. One offensive coordinator, speaking anonymously, explained the brilliance of this approach. Most rookies try to show you their ceiling. Shedeur is showing you his floor, and his floor is higher than most quarterback ceilings. That's terrifying for his competition because it means he's not going to beat himself. But the chess master mentality extends far beyond football strategy. Sanders understands that winning in the NFL isn't just about performance, it's about politics, relationships, and long-term positioning. While other rookies are focused solely on making the team, Sanders is building the foundation for a 15-year career. His community engagement isn't just good citizenship, it's strategic relationship building with the fan base. His humble approach with veterans isn't just good manners, it's creating allies who will support him when adversity comes. His measured responses to media questions aren't just professionalism, they're building a reputation for reliability that coaches and front office executives value above almost everything else. Consider how he's handling the pressure and expectations. Instead of shying away from the spotlight or making bold predictions about his future, he's embracing the attention while consistently redirecting focus to team goals and collective success. When reporters asked about his individual performance, he talks about how the offensive line is protecting him and how receivers are making great catches. When they asked about his future, he talks about helping the team win games this season. This isn't just media training, this is emotional intelligence at an elite level. Sanders understands that in the NFL, individual success is meaningless without team success, and team success is impossible without buy-in from every player in the locker room. Perhaps most impressively, he's managing expectations in a way that creates sustainable success rather than unsustainable hype. He's not making bold predictions or guaranteeing outcomes. He's simply showing up every day and performing at a level that makes bold predictions unnecessary. Garrett Bush, one of Cleveland's most respected football analysts, captured it perfectly. Shedeur isn't just playing football, he's playing chess. Every move is calculated, every decision serves multiple purposes, and every day he's positioning himself not just for immediate success, but for long-term dominance. So where does all this leave us? With a fifth-round rookie quarterback who isn't just exceeding expectations, he's completely redefining what's possible for a player at his draft position. But this story isn't really about draft position or statistics or even individual brilliance. This is about something much bigger. What we're witnessing in Cleveland isn't just the development of a promising young quarterback. We're watching the birth of something that could transform an entire franchise, an entire city, and potentially the way the NFL evaluates and develops quarterback talent forever. Think about what Sanders has accomplished in just a few months. He's outperformed every veteran in his quarterback room by margins that shouldn't be mathematically possible. He's earned the respect of players who typically don't give rookies a second glance. He's forced media members who have covered the NFL for decades to completely reconsider their initial assessments. He's created a buzz around the Cleveland Browns that hasn't existed in over 20 years. But here's what makes this story truly special. It's not built on hype or potential or what might happen someday. It's built on daily performance, consistent excellence, and a level of professionalism that's making everyone around him better. Sanders isn't promising greatness, he's delivering it, one practice at a time, one throw at a time, one leadership moment at a time. The midnight training sessions in thunderstorms, the ambidextrous throws that break defensive minds, the statistical dominance that's rewriting record books, the veteran respect that's unprecedented for a rookie, these aren't separate stories. They're all part of the same narrative. A young man who has been preparing for this moment his entire life and is now showing the world that all that preparation wasn't just about making it to the NFL. It was about changing the NFL. Cleveland fans have been waiting for this moment for over 2 decades. They've endured disappointment after disappointment, false hope after false hope. But what's happening with Shedeur Sanders feels different because it is different. This isn't about potential or upside or what could be. This is about what is, right now, today. The NFL is a league that humbles everyone eventually. It breaks down the unprepared, exposes the pretenders, and reveals who truly belongs at the highest level of professional football. But sometimes, very rarely, a player comes along who doesn't just survive the NFL's tests. They master them so completely that they force the league to adjust to them instead of the other way around. That's what we're seeing with Shedeur Sanders. And Cleveland, after decades of quarterback instability, might just be witnessing the beginning of their next great era. The question isn't whether Sanders is ready for the NFL. The question is whether the NFL is ready for Shedeur Sanders. What do you think? Are we witnessing the birth of Cleveland's next franchise quarterback, or is this just rookie camp hype? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more NFL analysis that goes beyond the headlines. In the next video, I'll be breaking down how Sanders' success is already influencing how other teams are evaluating late-round quarterback prospects. You won't want to miss it.